Okay, Nick.
When you see the cloudy skies and concerning smoke illustrated in this picture, do you want your family and friends to live in and around this? If you care about them, then most likely you answered no to that question. Hi, my name is Cagle, and I'll be informing you about the global effects of climate change and its currently transforming the world. This change prompted me to investigate our changing climate, which led me to my question: how is changing climate and the environment into a different place, and what steps can be taken to reduce this environmental impact? This topic is extremely important and must be understood in order to leave future generations with a clean environment and a healthy atmosphere. The issue of climate is also a global phenomenon that affects all countries and people, making this issue one of the few on a global scale. The widespread belief in this change truly began when climate reports came out in the 1980s that identified the greenhouse effect. This is when the heat-trapping gases that are consumed at high rates end up in the atmosphere and allow heat to come in the earth, but not to leave, much like a greenhouse. After the climate reports were published, the media began to focus heavily on climate change, leading to an increase in this belief in change, while also drawing political attention for many years to come. Since this political attention began to increase, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was established in 1988. Coincidentally, 1988 held high numbers of severe droughts, heat waves, and forest fires. One of these fires in particular began at Yellowstone National Park, a national American icon of beauty of nature. This fire is still one of the largest in American history, having burned over 1.2 million acres and illustrated the reality of climate change to not just the American public, but the entire world. This belief was further solidified when a renowned climate scientist, James E. Henson, testified in a Senate hearing that the greenhouse effect has been detected and is changing the climate now. Margaret Thatcher, an ambassador to the United Nations, first said, with the Cold War thawing, international efforts to inhibit climate change would soon be a true possibility. Thatcher also stated that the upcoming climate conference will be among the most important conferences the United Nations has ever held. In Mark Montgomery's The Urban Transformation of the Developing World, the United Nations predicts that by 2050, two-thirds of the world's population will be living in cities. The United Nations also hypothesizes that 86% of the growing population is projected to occur in urban areas, which will change the environment and climate even more. Although climate change is generally perceived as only a negative concept, there are still a few benefits. For farmers, there is improved agricultural crop yields, which is largely due to longer growing season, and which is caused by rising temperatures. The death rate in winter has also dropped and is still declining as temperatures rise, which leaves previously cold areas with lower mortality rates. One large economic benefit is the establishment of new shipping routes through the Arctic as the ice melts, clearing new paths for ships and freighters transporting economic goods. It has not gone unnoticed that the last few years have had fairly mild winters with blazing hot summers across the globe. However, this is more than a coincidence, as 16 out of 17 of the last 17 years have been record years for heat since 2001. This is a powerful number that reiterates the bulk of climate change and its proximity to our generation, which leads me to the many negatives of climate change. As I previously stated, the number of droughts, forest fires, and heat waves has been gradually increasing since the late 1800s. Not only that, but unstable weather patterns are now commonly observed, which also disrupts the migration patterns of many species, including humans. These pros and cons come with a number of implications. As the weather events continue to occur, the heavy use of fossil fuels is also taking place, insinuating the continuation of global warming and climate change. Along with this heavy use is the unhurried conversion to clean energy. With the high amount of environmental carbon dioxide, it is expected that global temperatures will continue to rise hand in hand with new potentially catastrophic climate events. The chart on the left here shows that the number of days either above or below average temperature has risen as time has progressed, spiking in the last 50 years, and that's mostly above average since the temperature is rising. The chart on the right illustrates the astronomical increase in atmospheric CO2 in the last century, almost going off the chart. This is scientific evidence that climate change is real and our environment is changing. Before I discuss solutions, there are certain things that prohibit solutions from even being discussed or implemented. Democrats and Republicans refuse to work with one another in Congress, creating political gridlock. It is also much cheaper to continue consuming carbon-based fuels rather than switch to expensive clean energy-based technology. There are ample numbers of current solutions, such as solar power or wind turbines, to produce clean energy. However, climate conferences are also being held to discuss ways to globally cut back on fossil fuel usage. However, there are many issues with the solutions, as fossil fuels are now ingrained in modern society. The fact that fossil fuels are readily available almost anywhere in the world makes it more convenient to use them. Consumption rates in their current high state would take years to cut down to save lives. It is also expensive to convert to new technologies. I propose that the United States should cut carbon emissions by 3% each year for the next 15 years, while also integrating clean energy technologies during that time period. Lastly, after that is over, we must maintain low levels of emissions while continuing to produce clean energy. So, in conclusion, climate change must be carefully solved using a number of technologies in order to reduce emissions and ultimately preserve the life of future generations. We must do whatever it takes to ensure this, and I believe it is within the ability of mankind to do so. Thank you.
All right. How valid and reliable are the sources you used, and how do you know?
My sources are very valid, as I used for my research paper, which I used to use this presentation. I used EBSCOhost, which is the only reliable sources in that. But I also use sources such as the EPA, which is a certain committee designed to investigate climate change and its causes. And that was one of the main contributors to my research.
If you had more time, what additional research would you conduct related to this issue?
I would conduct research that would try to show more of the positive benefits of climate change, because that's one of the things no one really thinks that climate change has any positive benefits, even though high crime rates and things like that come out of climate change, but there also aren't that many positives, which is why it's hard to find. But I would like to research into that.
Okay, thanks.